comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. Alright, so we're back at the process. This is number 11. This is a to be continued from last week. The subject matter was trying to keep alcohol in my life. So last week I left you at my son being born, which I sort of considered my rock bottom individually. Personally, that was my rock bottom. It's funny what I consider rock bottom to be because I had been in worse positions in my life. I wasn't laying in the gutter with a fucking needle in my arm. I hadn't lost everything. I hadn't chased everyone away. But my son was just born. And when I looked in the mirror, I was a fucking loser. There was no other way to cut it. I was a loser. I had not become anything that I thought I could become or would become. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. Personally, I wasn't getting shit from outside or anything like that. It was just internally, I knew I had not done anything. So 6 weeks after my son was born, my wife went back with her mum and the kid to India, and I stayed in Australia to work because we were fucking broke. We had a few credit card debts that I wanted to clear. We hadn't saved enough money to really start a life. We were sort of just afloat. So I'm like, all right, you go back to India. I'll stay and work. I'll pay off the credit cards, save a bit of money. I also need to get my head together. I obviously didn't throw this one in, but I really needed to get my fucking head together. Like, I adjusted to fatherhood pretty well and pretty quickly, but I really needed that fucking time and space just to assess what the fuck was going on because I was in a spin. And this is when I moved in with the brother and sister meth head and the hooker. My comedian mate Dom was moving out of the house because he was fucking cooked, and I took over his room. I think it was like $120 a fucking week or something like that. So I moved in to the fucking meth mansion and had a futon at the floor at the palace and was waking up at 5 a.m. every single morning with my brown hat to go make some coffees at the fucking hospital. I was doing like 12 to 14 hour days every fucking day in my brown fucking hat for like $22.60 an hour. So during this period, I had to stop drinking. Not completely, but I was like, I can't fuck this up. If I just go on a bender for the next fucking 3 months while my wife and my newborn son are in India, I don't know if I could fucking live with that. So the guilt kept me off the fucking booze pretty much that whole period of time. I had a couple of days here and there where I drank, but I really fucking knuckled down. I just worked. I just sucked it in. I got healthy. I lost a bunch of weight. I really took this like 3 months seriously. And the other thing, which ended up being like a side effect of where I moved into, was I lost any fucking romantic ideas about being a single man meth head. I knew the meth head path was not my path. No, really, for that 3 months, I was living as basically a bachelor. I had all the freedom in the world. I could do whatever the fuck I want. And I just did not want to do any of it. Like, that illusion of what life might be like without a wife and kids left my system within like the first 3 months. Because I got to live it and look around, and there was no romance in it at all. A little bit maybe, but not much. This has become a little bit documentary-like, but I can really only tell you what happened. Like, during this whole time, especially like the last 3 or 4 years I was drinking, I would take time off booze, then I'd go back to it. I would drink only on weekends, and then I'd just end up drinking. I made a deal I would drink only on holidays or when I'm overseas. Then I got hammered and punched in Portugal with only my wife there, scared the fuck out of her. Like, nothing worked. Also, whenever I would take these breaks, life would start to click for me. It was so fucking obvious. I just couldn't do anything about it. But life would start to click. Comedy would start getting better. Relationship would start getting better. Health, everything would start getting better. And then I would start drinking again. And by then, I fucking knew I was going to slide back to what I was like. And whenever I went back to drinking after these breaks I would take, the slide back was instantaneous. It was like that night, the night I drank, after the break, I would be a fucking monster again. And that started to really wear me down. It's like someone smashing their head against the brick wall over and over and over again. That's what I was doing. Eventually, you got to stop smashing your head against the brick wall or die. But the only reason I seem to have stopped smashing my head against the brick wall was pure exhaustion. I just couldn't bash my head against the fucking brick wall anymore. I just couldn't muster the energy. But anyway, we'll go back to the documentary for a bit. So after about 2.5 months of living in the meth mansion, I had cleared the credit cards, had started saving. I was completely fucking exhausted and I was so fucking depressed, like bad. And I just didn't want to miss any more of my kid growing up. Those early stages, that would just eat me up every fucking day. So I'm like, fuck this, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to India. I didn't even make the full 3 months. So off to India I went and spent the next 9 months drinking virtually every day. Hard gin and beer fucking drinking in India. Went on an absolute fucking bender. Just fucking lit the joint up. I had friends come over. We were drinking, both of us, me and my wife, were drinking most nights here. Went on a bunch of holidays around India, got fucking hammered then. Then we went overseas, went to Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Egypt. That was when I got punched in Portugal with my wife at the bar. Then we were in Morocco and I left my wife in Morocco and I went to Egypt by myself and had my own personal little Egypt fucking bender. Just stumbling around the streets of Cairo hammered eating shawarma. That was like our leaving India that holiday. I went straight from Egypt back to Australia. My wife went from Morocco back to India, but I came back to Australia early by myself from India so I could set us up with a fucking place, do all that shit, and we were gonna live as our little family, just us, for the first time ever. And that coming back to Australia from India was the beginning of the end. And that's where we'll pick up next week. The beginning of the end. All right. If you're enjoying the podcast, share it around with your friends. Word of mouth is the only fucking thing there is. Fuck the rest of these cunts. Just share it around. That would be great. And I'll see ya the fuck later.